I do want to ask you about the mindset shift, right? So for people listening who maybe are in that scarcity mindset, it might be because of experiences they've had growing up, like your friend with the toilet paper situation, or maybe they didn't come from money, or they just don't have the education. I mean, I definitely feel like I had a scarcity mindset growing up. My parents, they got divorced. We didn't have, we definitely were not uncomfortable, but we didn't really eat out a lot. It was we had secondhand clothes, stuff like that, so I didn't come from an upbringing where I felt necessarily abundant, and I didn't have this drive and motivation to go out and get heaps of money. I didn't think that was necessary, and I just didn't think it was a reality for me. So for people who also have a scarcity mindset, what tips do you have for shifting into an abundant mindset? Because I think the mindset, yes, it's not everything. I think education plays a role too, but I do think it plays a big part.
I think the first step will be like understanding like where your scarcity mindset comes from, and then how it affects you and where does it show up, because it's really hard to try and defeat and tackle something that you don't understand, right? Because there are certain things that I would do that I didn't understand that this was from a scarcity mindset. So let's say, for example, I was like a super independent person. Like I would like buy something from IKEA, a whole huge wardrobe, and I would try to do that by myself. And that was because like growing up without much, it was like, we can't pay someone to do that. Like you better learn how to do it, because no one else is going to come and help you. Whereas at one point I was like, why am I trying to do this by myself? I can literally just pay someone on TaskRabbit or whatever app it is, like a couple pounds, and they will literally do it for me. But that was the scarcity mindset coming in. It was like, if you can do something by yourself, then you should do it by yourself, because you can do it. But it's like, no, like this is my scarcity mindset coming in into areas of my life that I wouldn't even think. So I think the first step is trying to just kind of look at like some of the habits that you have and like the things that you do, and try to understand, okay, where is this behavior coming from? Because then you can start to really tackle it. And then I think, I mean, for me, I read a lot. I try to read a lot, and just to tap into the mindset of people who are where I want to be, who do have an abundant mindset, and try and understand, okay, what is it? Why is it that they think the way they think? So one of the things that I really, really love that a lot of people who have, that I see have an abundant mindset have, is they think of money as like, they don't take it too seriously. They see it as like a game, like making
like
money.
Energy as well.
Like it's like energy. They see money as like a game that, oh, like this is just something that like I'm going to play, and I'm going to try and play to win. And that kind of mindset, it takes away from the seriousness of it. Even though of course money is a very serious thing, but it's just that mindset switch to just not it to not be something that you're so fearful of, to be something that you like, oh, it's kind of like a game. Like I'm just going to try and get as good as this game as possible. But reading and like engaging with other people who I have seen have an abundant mindset has really helped me to do that, because I can understand now like their thinking behind money and why they think the way that they think, and that can sometimes challenge me a lot. So for example, like one of my mentors, she is like, oh, like once you reach a certain level of wealth, you realize that leverage is a good thing. But when you grow up with a scarcity mindset, debt is never a good thing. But having to borrow money is never like, what do you mean? That can't be a good thing. But then just understanding her when she's talking about leverage from a business perspective, and not having debt in your personal name, but having debt in your business name. But I wouldn't get that if I wasn't listening and understanding people who have an abundance mindset. So I would say start there, and then also with understanding like where your scarcity mindset comes from and how it manifests, and then trying to tackle it that way. I'm by no means an expert in it, but like you said, you had a scarcity mindset as well. Were there any things that you did?
I think one interesting thing was noticing where it was easy for me to spend money and where it wasn't. Because I think you can have a scarcity mindset, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't show up in every area. So like spending money on holidays or out for dinner wasn't really an issue for me. But when it came to like, I don't know, big things like with the property, stuff like that, it kind of pained me a lot more. So I think just noticing where your ease with money comes from, like I think they're sometimes called your money dials, right? Like where you can dial in your happiness and your joy into spending versus where you can't. Noticing that I think is definitely step one. And step two, I'll have to back one of the things you said, which is learning from other people, which is actually why I've got you on the podcast today, because learning from you and like listening to YouTubers is something I've made a priority this year, because I actually sat down to write my goals. And what I noticed, because in a goal setting system that I've put together, one of the steps in there is to write my goals out and then look at them and notice if I have any limitations or any just like doubt kind of feelings towards any of those goals. And what I realized was a strong limiting belief when it came to money. So that scarcity element's still there. You know, it's my ability to make it in my side passions, in what I'm doing. And so not an antidote, but a step one for me was the awareness. Step two was now starting to learn from other people, starting to hear people's stories, understand how they think. Because I think when you have certain beliefs for so long, you have to then generate new beliefs for a longer period of time to overpower it. You know, obviously experience plays a role, but I think then retraining those beliefs, like, it takes time. So, you know, inviting you on the podcast and listening to other YouTubers and stuff like that is kind of my approach now. Was there anything else I should be doing?
I like that. I think I like what you've mentioned so far, because that's also how I started as well. And then as you kind of get into it, you kind of start picking up on things that, you know what, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. But like, I wouldn't want to list off like 10 different things, where it's like, if you have like 2 or 3 things that you think are actually working, stick with that. And then once you get good at that, like the next step, it will be revealed to you just from like mastering step 1, 2, and 3. Once you get to step 3, you will see step 4. So yeah, I think that's a great place to start, because that's where I started as well. I think lifestyle inflation is like a big killer of the path to wealth, because